working.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to my review for the Monsterverse Giant MechaGodzilla Figure from the recent movie Godzilla vs. Kong. Despite being a largely tokusatsu related channel, this is my first foray into Godzilla. I've been kind of on a kick lately thanks to the movie, and I decided I wanted to try picking up one of the toys. I actually had a hard time finding them. This is the first one I've seen. I kept getting fooled by this raw gorilla figure. I kept thinking it was Kong, but this was the first one I saw, and I decided to test the waters, so let me know what you think and if you want me to cover more of this. But I was kind of wanting to pick these up anyway, and this guy looked pretty neat, but let's talk about him. So this is a larger scale figure, hence the word giant. It is about 11 inches, and it's part of that larger scale. It doesn't have any like electronic features or anything. It's just kind of a big figure. And it actually does look pretty cool, as you can see. Like, this isn't going to be your collector's grade figure that has all kinds of articulation and maybe lights and sounds and super painted details. It's kind of more like a cheaper one that kids are gonna like and whatnot. But for that, it's not actually that bad detail-wise. As you can see, I think it has a pretty good sculpt on it. Like, it's got some really nice sculpted details. You do sort of have that cheap gray plastic to it, but it's a little bit darker, so it doesn't look as bad. I've bought a lot of toys that have that sort of lighter gray plastic that, in my opinion, looks really bad. So this isn't too bad for what you're getting for the price and whatnot. Its details aren't going to be exactly like the show. It's not going to be like a collector's grade figure, but it's honestly okay. Now, my main disappointment with this guy actually just comes from the articulation. Now, I'm not expecting a whole world of articulation here, but the only articulation you have is the hands here, which is actually really cool. The hands here actually completely spin around like this, and you can open up the claws like this. This is really neat. I think this is really dynamic. It's pretty accurate. I think it's just cool. And it just kind of reinforces how weird it is that he doesn't have more basic articulation, that he has this really cool bit of articulation. Because his arms, you can move them up and down here. You can technically move them around if you wanted to, but it's kind of hindered by this. But you can't move them out, leaving them rather stiff. His head is also completely stationary, and you can't open and close his mouth. I would have settled for honestly one of those things. I think more so the opening and closing mouth would have been nice, because you could probably just lean him up and kind of have him roaring at the sky, but it just kind of sucks to not have that very basic articulation. You can move the legs back and forth a little bit, so you can maybe get him in a running pose, and you can actually move his feet here to give him a little bit more dynamic poses, and his tail moves by nature of it because you actually have to put it in, like when you get it, because when you get it, it's a separate piece. It's really funny because there's a little thing on the bottom of the box that says assembly, and it literally just shows you plugging the tail in, so that's all you have to do with it. But it's just disappointing in that regard. Like, I wasn't expecting anything crazy, but for this kind of larger scale figure, I was expecting them to maybe do a little bit more with it. Just maybe give it something, whether it was a little more dynamic poses or whether it was a little bit more features or something like that, especially like for kids that might want to be entertained with it. And like I said, especially it's weird because I really like this articulation. Like, this is kind of a nice attention to detail articulation you would see on maybe a more expensive figure, and it's weird that it has this bit, which you normally wouldn't see, but it doesn't allow you to do other things. Like, I think just one of those things, the arm or the head or the mouth, would have been a nice thing to just give a little bit more dynamic pose. I think that would have been great. But overall, I still actually think it's pretty okay. Like I said, I think it has a really nice sculpt to it. It still looks a little bit cheap because, like I said, this isn't your high-end collector's figure or anything. And I was kind of unsure about it when I picked it up because I'm like, this looks kind of cool, but it also does look kind of cheap and basic. You know, there's not a lot to it. But I think if you really want a MechaGodzilla figure and you're kind of impatient, it's honestly not that bad. Like I said, I was mixed on it, but when it was sitting here in the review station waiting to be reviewed, it was just sitting there on the station, and I was like, oh, that actually looks pretty cool. That'll look pretty cool on the shelf. Or maybe if you're someone that likes to customize, it might give you a solid start. I will say though, if you're interested in this, I recommend getting it at retail price, because it retails for about $19.99. Like I said, I had a hard time finding these, and when I was looking online, I only saw them for like $50 on Amazon and other places, and I even like looked at some of the reviews, and people were like, oh, this is kind of cool, but not for $60. And I'm like, yeah, don't spend $60 for this. If you want it, make sure you find it for the actual retail price. I could definitely recommend it if it ever goes on sale, like if it goes on sale or on clearance at Walmart or Target or something. I could definitely recommend it then. It's just kind of a mixed bag right now because I don't think it's the greatest. It's a little cheap. It's missing some articulation, but I also think it's actually pretty cool looking for what it is. But that's about it for this one, guys. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications from my videos. And of course, let me know if you'd like to see some more Godzilla and Kong reviews and whatnot if I can find some more stuff. Until next time, Dawson Ryder, signing out.